Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, man. Hunt the ball. Let's go, family on three. 1, 2, 3, family.
Hello, football family. Welcome in to Huddle It Up Films. Got Chris back with me. Chris, how are you doing today, man? I got to ask you straight off the bat, man. How's it going?
It's going well, man. Always glad to be on here with you and chop it up. It's been a few weeks, but I'm glad to be back.
Me too. And when the season gets rough and we're in tough games, I call on Chris. Chris, I gave you a little hard time last time you came on. We lost, so you deserve all the credit in the world for this 16-10 Baltimore Ravens crucial win over the Browns. And there's a lot to talk about in this game. But first, I wanted to give a shout out and let you know, Chris, I got the green and gold from Dundalk on, and we're in the state championship game again this year. Second time, 2015 was our first state championship appearance. So go Owls. You might have seen them on Monday Night Football out there. That's my home field. Believe it or not, Chris, I'm one of the few YouTubers and Ravens analysts who actually live in Baltimore. If you can believe that, like I can walk to the stadium if I really had to. So just pumping my own horn here for a minute in the beginning, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Talk your talk.
Yeah, that's right, man. Hey, state championship though. This is a big thing for the guys. So I believe that's Thursday night. So go Owls. I think we're playing Mervo. Big school, people in Baltimore know. So, but yeah, it was proud to see my hometown team on the field that I would say the field I played in, but they replenished that stuff. But we played on all rocks and grass. But to see the hometown school on Monday Night Football was a thrill. Shout out to all the guys. Just ended up following a few of the kids on Twitter and seeing their college acceptance letters and stuff like that. So that's great. Shout out to Dundalk High School. So, sorry about that for everybody that tuned in for the Browns game, but I had to do a little humble brag, not so humble brag there at the beginning. So, Chris, 16-10. I really wanted to talk to you about this game in a macro sense. Like we could get into X's and O's and schemes and all that, but that's generally something I save until I've really studied the tape. Just from a general sense, how big was this game for the Baltimore Ravens?
Oh man, it was huge because everybody's like almost log jammed in the division right now and just in the AFC in general. So if they lose that game, it kind of brings them back down to earth a little bit and muddle up everything as far as playoff scenarios and seeding is concerned. So for them to get this win, their first division win, it was huge, man. And the fashion that they did it too, it was pretty spectacular. Not scoreboard wise, but just what they were able to do is pretty spectacular.
I agree. And, I just want to just paint the other side of it. You come into this game and your quarterback throws 4 interceptions and you fall out of first place in the AFC North. We were in first place. The Bengals won. So we had to win to stay a game ahead of them. Of course, they own the tiebreaker with us, so we would have been officially in second place. All this scrutiny comes on Lamar. The team's falling apart. We can't win. We can't get healthy. We're in the wild card spot. Like, imagine for a second, Chris, if we weren't able to pull out that game and what the vibe would have been like in Baltimore.
Oh, the sky would have been falling. Everybody would have had to have been fired. During the game, there were those crazy people saying to sit Lamar and put Tyler Huntley in. So it just everything would have been magnified, and the whole world would have been ending as far as Ravens Twitter is concerned if they would have lost.
Yeah, it's important to keep things in perspective, like not get too high or too low. And, one of the things I love about having you on is we can look at big picture stuff. And that's why I always like talking to you about that, because, when we were winning earlier in the season, we kind of pumped the brakes a little bit on the running game and, the way we kind of look disorganized. The last 2 weeks, though, it's been a more organized Ravens team. And what I mean by that is we haven't played our best. Lamar had one of the worst games he's ever had, turning the ball over. But as far as getting the plays in, getting the plays called, executing, not having major breakdowns on defense. This is 2 weeks in a row, Chris, where we've gotten the stuff that was haunting us all season kind of cleaned up. I mean, we were getting to the line of scrimmage and getting plays off without, me having a mini heart attack in the house here as the clock was winding down.
Yeah, man. And it takes a little bit of cohesion because you have revolving doors at certain positions. So it's like when you kind of get the continuity going, you can get into a groove a little bit. And you kind of see that especially on defense, you see guys just hollering a lot more at each other before the play is going on, and you see them moving each other around and making sure that they're on the right page. And especially last night, they were locked in, man. That's the most disciplined I've seen the defense play in a long time.
Really was. I want to just stick on the defense for a second, but I have a kind of a theory here I want to run by you. But teams that don't have a good number one and a good number two, three, however you want to categorize it, it's subjective. But if you don't have weapons against this team, and we can line up those five across like we did in that Tennessee game last year, you got five guys lined up across the line of scrimmage. That, especially like outside zone scheme that Cleveland likes, they've kind of gone away from it. But we saw it last year with Derrick Henry. We have athletic edges like Bowser, like Oweh, who really the boots aren't scaring them. They can chase runs down from the back end. It looks like if you don't have weapons on offense, it's going to be tough to score on the Ravens defense.
Yeah, I mean, outside of some of those, which just I don't know, it's just strange. Those fluky long plays. I mean, I can't really call them fluky because they're happening almost every week, but it's like those, like they'll play well outside of those two big plays that they'll have a game where it's just like a broken assignment. And other than that, they've been able to be play pretty well on defense. So it's been a strange thing to watch and to see them kind of have those mental breakdowns, especially in the secondary for guys who have played together for so long. When Averett was there, when the whole secondary was together, when it was Joker, Chuck, Averett, Jimmy, and Marlowe. It was weird to see those kind of breakdowns because you expect that from a group that's new or a group that hasn't played together for a while. So seeing them struggle like that was kind of weird, but it seems like they're kind of settling in a little bit and kind of getting into their groove, hopefully going forward.
Yeah, I hope so, because it's 2 weeks in a row where we really couldn't afford those kind of plays on offense. But yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is if you don't have guys who can really stretch the field and make something happen after the catch, or guys that even a cornerback like Marlin is, going to struggle with or give up plays to, if you don't have those guys on your team at wide receiver and tight end, this Ravens defense can hone in on the run. It's tough to move the ball. We saw last night. I'm just going to read off some numbers for you, Chris. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, 15 carries for 36 yards. They barely got over 2 yards per carry. Baker was under 50% completion percentage. And I want to stick on that for a second because the edge players on this team look like one of the strongest groups on the team when you're talking about Odafe Oweh, Justin Houston, and last night's star, Tyus Bowser.
Yeah, man, those guys they really came to play, and they were really the backbone of the defense last night because they were shutting things down, and along with those interior guys, Brandon Williams, he looked like his vintage self last night. You had Broderick Washington, who I thought played a fantastic game, and he was just sealing up the edge and just protecting that edge. He played so well; he was able to open things up for those edge guys, and seeing those guys, and Jelly too. Jelly's been almost an unsung hero this season with the way he's played and filled in for Brandon Williams. So, hats off to those guys just in the front seven, being able to come up and really dominate this offensive line and these two running backs.
For sure. And Broderick Washington, Chris, is a guy that out of college I had firmly ranked where I had him. In other words, there wasn't like, okay, is this guy a first-round pick? No. Is this guy undrafted? No. Like, Broderick Washington is grown man strong, and you could see this from the time he was in college. I mean, as tall as he is, I think he's like 6'5" or something. He's strong enough to play the nose and not get uprooted, which is just, you don't see that a lot. Usually your nose tackles are 6 foot, 300 something, where Broderick is a tall, long, strong. But man, yeah, he looks great on the edge. I feel like we can move Broderick around, and considering how the offseason went for him, which we're not going to get into, what a pleasant surprise in Broderick. And then also Justin Madubuike turning it up, Chris. That's the guy I want to do a cut up.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, man, I'm going to do a cut up of him and Bowser this week because Madubuike on these zone running teams is an absolute nightmare. He's too quick for the offensive lineman to move laterally during these run plays. He's too quick, and he's got, that build up strength, when he gets that momentum, he's able to hit quickly, to split those gaps. So you had strong edge setting, really strong edge setting, and Matabike shooting the gaps. Of course, Jelly and Brandon holding their spots. There was really nowhere for these running backs to go. It really didn't matter who the running backs were. It wasn't a bad game for Chubb or Hunt. It is just like Derrick Henry last year. What were they supposed to do?
Yeah, man, and getting back to Matabike, he was consistently one of the first guys off the ball, and
Right.
it didn't look like he was playing at the same speed as everybody else. Like it's like he was on fast forward, and he was constantly the first guy to engage with the offensive line, and that's what this defensive line has been missing is that guy who can shoot off and be first in the interior because we've always had stout guys and guys who can
Mm-hmm.
hold up against the run and take on the double team, but a guy that could shoot gaps and just be first to get off the line. That's something that's been missing for a really really long time. So it was good to see him step up, especially with Calais out last night.
Yeah, it's hard to find somebody, Chris, who can two gap and be able to shoot a gap. And for people at home who might not understand this, when you play a 3-4 defense, your three big guys up front are responsible for 5 gaps. So or 6 gaps. They're going to have to take 2 gaps each. So a lot of times they're standing their guy up, kind of holding their ground, trying to figure out where the running back's going. You have to be a big, strong, long defender to do that. And then, of course, if you're that big and strong and long, it's hard to be quick too. So Matabike has got that balance where he can be quick and he can two gap. The only thing I would say for the future in Matabike, I'm talking about next year, is I would like to see him beef up and be able to anchor better. But what a really good young player we have in Justin Matabike. Just a great pick for the Ravens. And once again, Chris, it looks like he's turning it on later in the season like he did last year.
Yeah, man, and it's a good sign for next year because as we know, we got Brandon Williams going to be a free agent. Who knows what's going to happen with Calais? So it's good to see these young guys step up and actually contribute. And so we could actually see what they have in an extended role.
Really is. And, there's been a lot of bright spots, I think, for the 2020 class and the 2021 class. When it didn't necessarily look like that even earlier this season. But you look at, let's go through them for a second. Patrick Queen, his step up, he just needed a little bit taken off his plate. He just needed to be put in the right position. You don't ask a player to do something that's out of their skill set. And the Ravens wanted to force him in that Mike position. I understand they spend a high pick. You need your every down linebacker there. But, man, he is a playmaker. Props to us and other people who have been calling for his move to Will now for over a year. But, man, what an impact Patrick Queen makes on this defense when he is just not thinking and he's just going.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things just to watch is because we see guys make a jump from the offseason. And it's like, all right, you expect a player going into his second or third year to make a jump when the season starts. And that's what we thought this year with Patrick Queen. And that didn't happen. He was struggling. But now what we're seeing an in-season jump where the game is kind of slowing down for him. And he's not thinking as much. And he's just playing ball. And you see it now where he's moving before the play is even snapped because he knows where the ball is going and he's shooting the gap. And that's wonderful to see because that's a player that's working hard. He's studying his tape and now he's out there having fun instead of thinking and trying to play not to make a mistake. Now he's playing free and it's beautiful to watch. And I'm glad that injury that he had yesterday wasn't serious because I'm like, damn, when I saw him go out, I was like, I hope nothing's broken because just when the light is coming on, you don't want to see him get injured.
No, and there's no replacement for his athleticism. As much of a hard time as as he's had, and I've given it to him when I felt he's deserve it. You don't replace his athleticism like that. You go ahead and put Chris Board in there. It's just not the same player or anybody in that spot. Even the safety. I mean, Queen is aggressive, and his energy too is something that I really appreciate about Patrick Queen. I talked about him not sulking at all. Not that you expect a professional to sulk. But when Josh Bynes makes a play, There's no holding back. It's like he's the happiest person in the world for Josh Bynes, which you don't get a lot with people who are prideful and be like, man, this guy came in, took my job. The team don't believe in me. I'm supposed to be a Mike, this and that. That has not been the case with Patrick Queen. He looks happy, free, comfortable, happy player, good player. You know what I mean? Like it goes hand in hand there. It's hard when the happier you are, the more positive you are, and the more comfortable you are is, really what I'm saying, the better you can play.
Yeah, man, confidence is big. I mean, we saw with Brashad Perriman. Once his confidence was gone, he was useless. And that goes with any player. Once they don't play with that confidence anymore, that's it. They're done for. And we're seeing him with that confidence back. And like I said, man, it's beautiful to see and watch that progression in season.
Another thing I like about this defense is, Chris, is that, and I called it, you mentioned it earlier, but I called it, a few weeks ago and got major pushback from some of our colleagues that this is a good defense down to down. It just has those breakdowns. And they're like, it's not a good defense. Look at the numbers. No, I think it really is a good defense down to down. On this down right here, whatever down it is, it's a good defense. It doesn't mean that our mistakes were mental, you know what I mean? So, but evidence of that and something that's popped up all year is the defense's ability to make a stand when we really need it. And we saw it in the Kansas City game was an early example. What was it? The Minnesota game where Lamar threw the interception. I think it was in overtime and the defense 3 and out on them. We come back and win the game. There's been a number of examples of this throughout the season, but yesterday, no better example. Ravens, of course, Lamar threw 4 interceptions. Cleveland got 3 points off of those 4 interceptions. So, I mean, as much as we were, upset about our missed opportunities, the defense was creating missed opportunities for Cleveland, which, was just the key to the game, I believe.
Yeah, that's for sure because to be put in that position, after you get a turnover and then Lamar just goes and gives it right back to the defense, that could be demoralizing for your defense. And they stepped up and they answered the call, and they gave up a touchdown which wasn't really a touchdown. So in all reality, they dominated that damn game, even with the turnovers that Lamar had. So just like we said earlier, it's the mental breakdowns have just been weird. But something that's kind of bothered me a little bit watching yesterday's performance is seeing that they're capable of playing sound, disciplined defense. But it's like, why isn't this consistent, across these games? Why are you locked in for the Browns game? Why are you not locked in for the Dolphins game? That's something that has to do with effort and discipline. You can't just walk in and say, we have the talent, because you look at the roster and it's clear they have talented guys at each level. But talent it could take you so far if you don't have the discipline or the effort. And that's what happens when you can't tackle. Tackling is about angles, discipline, and effort. And that's something that we have not seen with this team consistently. We saw it last night, but it's like, all right, you guys are capable of playing at a high level and being the type of defense that we thought they could be coming into this season. So it's like, don't just do it, when it's a division rival. This has to be week in and week out that you play disciplined, sound defense.
Right. Or don't just do it when you're playing with a backup quarterback, or don't just do it, when you feel like you have the advantage or when you feel like you're at a disadvantage or your back's against the wall. It should be an every down thing. And, I remember Haloti Ngata talking about him messing up in his first practice, and the veterans like Ray Lewis and Suggs were really upset with him. And they weren't upset with him because he messed up. They were upset with him because after he messed up, he threw his hands up and was like, and they're like, you got to run to the ball. That's what we do. We all mess up, but we all run to the ball. And, the Cincinnati game was the low point for me, Chris. When I went back and watched from the all 22, the stuff you couldn't see on TV, the guys in the backside were just assuming that the guys on the front side were making the tackle. It was a whole lot of jogging, a whole lot of not getting off blocks. and then it's like they have that oh shit moment where it's like, oh man, he's breaking free, I got to go. And that's something, you talk about a swarming defense. It's something that the Ravens are known for. Hopefully that's something that we don't have to talk about for the rest of the season, because quite honestly, Chris, it's something that really bugs me as a fan, as a former somebody who's played, coach kids and all that other stuff. All you can do is run to first base. You know what I mean? Just run to first base, let everything take care of itself. But yeah, and it goes back to leadership too. We could use a little kick in the butt sometimes, it seems like, on defense, if that's what it takes to get us playing like we were last night.
Yeah, that's for sure, and it's something that we see with what I like the Bills defense, because the Bills defense, they don't do anything exotic. They're not really about those packages and bringing guys from here, bringing guys from there. They just line up and they're like, look, we're going to be disciplined. We're going to line up. You know what we're going to do. We know what you're going to do. Try to beat us. And it's like, we're not going to make the big mistake. And I respect that so much, because it's something that's been missing from the Ravens defense as far as being that disciplined. And like you said, swarming to the ball and giving that effort that you see. And I just hope going forward that this could be a springboard where, all of these guys collectively are like, we haven't put up our best effort early in the season, but now it's time to buckle down and let's really show the league what we can do.
That's right. So I wanted to, while we're on defense, I wanted to ask you about something that kind of caught my attention today with Coach Harbaugh. And he was asked about Christian Welch. I'm sure you've seen him on defense come in and spell binds. I believe it was just 2 series, but he came in and played that middle linebacker for Josh Bynes, give him a little bit of rest. And they asked Coach Harbaugh, first of all, I thought Malik was healthy. Is Malik okay? And then they said, is it a plan to work him in? Has he just been practicing well? All this stuff. So basically what Harbaugh said, and of course I'm not quoting him, was, Welch has been practicing well. It kind of sounded like he wanted to not wear Bynes out too much, realizing that Bynes is up there and how important he is to give Welch, to give somebody else some snaps there. And then the last thing he mentioned was that Malik is working on the edge, and that they're working him into an edge outside linebacker position. Not sure if they're asking him to play on the rush side or the strong side. I would imagine the strong side, though, with Dalen Hayes' future this season up in the air, that they want somebody that can maybe set the edge on the strong side, maybe drop into coverage a little bit. I'm not sure. Caught me by surprise. What are your initial thoughts on the Malik situation, or Malik Harrison in general?
It's strange, man, because we saw him do a little bit of both at Ohio State when he was coming out of school. So we know he can do both, but it's like, are you going to stunt his growth by flip-flopping him around, or it's just like leave him in one spot and just let him develop and, take his lumps as he goes along. And this season before, he unfortunately got shot, he was struggling. He was struggling in the middle of the field. And yeah, I don't know if they saw it maybe where they're like, all right, we know this guy, he's just, he's not going to work at middle linebacker. Let's just throw him on the edge and see what we got there. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I mean, I guess we're going to find out, because that's a pretty backed up room right now. You got Justin Houston, you got Odafe, you have Ferg was getting some snaps yesterday. So, and like you
Bowser,
said,
of course.
Bowser, obviously. So it's like that's a pretty stacked room for him to just be thrown into. And then you have the linebacker group where you have Christian Welch and Chris Board getting snaps along with Josh Bynes and Patrick Queen. So I don't know. It's a curious call for a position that actually has been the healthiest one on the team, to throw another guy into the mix instead of him just leaving him at linebacker. But we'll see. It's a curious one, but I mean, they're the ones that watch these guys week in, week out. So we'll see what comes to fruition with him.
Yeah, it's a curious call for me too. Yeah, I understand it for this year, say, because Malik has not looked himself. He had a better 2020 than he had this year, in my opinion. I mean, he was crashing gaps, blowing up guards. Quentin Nelson comes, no problem. I'm just going to run into Quentin Nelson as hard as I can and tackle Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to tackle Derrick Henry and the guy who's blocking for him. Like, Malik is an absolute monster with some serious power. And I hope that they don't give up on him as a middle linebacker, moving forward. But as far as this year, and we've seen him play the edge throughout the last 2 years in like goal line situations or 4th and 1. They'll put an extra body out on the edge, and that's been what he's doing. But I hope his role is not reduced, especially since we have a powerful player like Jalen Ferguson. In other words, what I'm saying is there's not much that you're going to get out of Malik that you're not getting from Ferguson. They're both brick walls. They both set the edge well. So if it's a move for just this year and you're going to give them another shot at middle linebacker over the summer, okay, like I can see that. Let's do what we have to do to, put our best players out there in the best positions this year. But, I like Malik a lot, and I think he can be that 2-down thumper in this league. And if Queen's going to play the will, there's a spot for him here in the next couple of years if we don't fill that spot with a vet or a draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know as far as like just his progression. Like you said, I think he's a 2-down thumper. I don't think he's anything more than that in the league right now, because just in space, in Ohio State, he looked like he could play in space, and he knew how far to get it within his depth as far as zone drops are concerned. But in the NFL, it just hasn't clicked for him when he's in space. He's more that guy that's just, like you said, coming downhill and just, causing ruckus like he did in that Tennessee game last year in the playoffs. And I think maybe what they want to do is kind of groom him to be that edge guy that fits into that Pernell McPhee mold, where just a guy that could just be a bull in a china shop and kind of do all that dirty work that they want done. Maybe
Right.
that's
Beat people up.
maybe that's their plan with him. But for right now, yeah, like I'm with you, man. It's a curious one.
And he switched positions coming out of high school and college and all that. So it's like he's been moved around a while. He was an all-state quarterback, and and it's just like his movement skills just look so much. I mean, they look so much better last year. So I'm hoping things work out with Malik Harrison, because he's one of my favorite players. Just his play style and everything. It's just hard nosed. Love that. So. Hey, let's go over to the anything else on defense you want to talk about? Brandon Stevens, Chuck Clark, the corners. Anything stick out to you from the back end?
Yeah, I just want Chuck Clark and the rest of these DBs, man, just like take some grounders at practice, because these guys cannot scoop and score to save their lives. So Geno Stone, I think, missed one yesterday. Chuck Clark missed one. And these guys cannot play the infield as far as grounders are concerned, because they just keep missing them. And Chuck, with that dropped interception, he's gonna have to be on the jugs machine too, because that was a gift wrap one, and it just bounced right off his chest.
Yeah, I actually called him a bad word when that happened during the game. Very rare moment of weakness for me over here, but yeah, yeah, they came out, man. It wasn't the nicest phrase to call somebody, but Chuck got it from me on that one. It was just such a bad drop. But the last thing I want to mention on defense is Brandon Stevens versus Geno Stone. I'm leaning towards more of playing Stone more and more, because when I see Stevens play, Chris, it's like I said it to our buddy Yoshi today. It's almost like you can see the cloud thought bubble above his head right now. The young man is swimming in just trying to catch up. It's not a speed thing, like he's fast enough, but the game is moving a little fast. They're asking him to do a bunch of stuff, whereas Geno Stone's got that comfort level, played safety a lot, been on the team longer, so on and so forth. Would you be in favor of saying leaving Brandon Stevens' role to what it was when Deshaun was healthy and letting Stone cover a lot of that back end?
I mean, if you would have asked me that coming into the season, I would have said, yeah. I mean, it would be Stone, because like what you just said, Stone is a guy who's had more NFL experience. He's been in this system longer than Stevens has. He's been a safety way longer than Stevens has been a safety. So, and then when you look at when you look at when Earl Thomas joined the team, it was like, man, it's hard to play safety for the Ravens. So you look at that guy who was Hall of Fame caliber safety saying that in his first season with the Ravens. So imagine a kid that was playing running back 3 years ago, playing cornerback last year, and now he's playing safety for the first time in his life, and it's in the Ravens system to be their starting free safety. That is a lot.
A lot.
And it seems like they were switching it up quite a bit yesterday, and I do like that idea of having Geno Stone as the primary guy at safety, and then having Stevens in that role where they just move him around. They kind of use him as like a queen on a chessboard, and just move him all over the place, and you don't know what he's going to be doing. So
Yeah,
I
just let
like
him
that idea.
attack, or right, just let him attack or cover the tight end, or do something. But like when I've been watching the tape the last couple of weeks, it's just like he's a step and a half slow. It's not even like just a step or a second, because he just doesn't want to mess up. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to leave his assignments. It's not coming natural to him. And when he has let it go, he's been wrong, or he's taken a too aggressive angle and missed a tackle. So I think it'd be best, to just work Brandon Stevens in. I know we're counting on him big time. It was an important pick, controversial type pick, but yeah, let Geno Stone with all that experience kind of try to handle the back end. You're not getting the same athlete as Brandon Stevens, but you're getting some safe play. And, like we talked about, the blown assignments is really the only thing holding this defense back from being a good defense, one of the better defenses as we head into the playoffs, especially. But on the offensive side, now this is what we're at about a half hour in, Chris. We haven't talked about Lamar Jackson, which is kind of like a first on this show, because usually we're talking about all the great things Lamar did. Yesterday, not great Lamar's. But matter of fact, I don't think I've ever seen Lamar like not see defenders like he did yesterday. Uh, they were right there. He threw it right to him, and then the miscommunication with Andrews, something else you might go another month without seeing, or the rest of the season. Him and Andrews are usually on the same page. So Lamar, I feel like it's just a blip in the radar. And one of the reasons that I feel so thankful and excited about this game is we're not going to see another game from Lamar like that for a very long time. Are you on the same page, or are there any consistent things that you're seeing from Lamar that concern you a little? How do you feel about this?
No, I'm not worried about it. Like you said, I think it's a blip on the radar. Um, every quarterback, no matter who it is, they're gonna have a game like this. Just one of those anomalies where it's like, the hell, what kind of game was that? What what was he seeing? And I mean, it's been 17 days since Lamar played football, so it could be a rust factor or speed factors. It still could be that he's not 100% as far as his health is concerned, and you know, it could be a bunch of factors. But I think it's a great sign when they play them for in a couple weeks, because they got the worst Lamar ever, and the Ravens still pulled it off. Lamar's not throwing 4 picks when they meet again in Cleveland in a couple weeks. So it's like, I feel so good about that he was able to play that kind of game, and the team was able to pick him up, because he's been the one picking up this whole team, for the last 3 years almost. And it's about time that the team kind of rallied around him and was able to get the W despite his play.
Amen. Amen. It was interesting to see Lamar's reaction after that. And if anybody that's played sports can relate to this, you have a bad game, but your team wins and everybody else is happy. And you don't want to be selfish. It's not all about you. You know what I mean? Your team won, you want to celebrate, but you still, are just thinking about all these mistakes that you made. And to see Lamar handle that, congratulate the Browns, congratulate his team, but still, like, you could tell he just seemed like almost like disgusted with himself. You know what I mean? Please don't ask me about this game. Please let this interview end. I just want to be gracious and get out of here. And of course, he tweeted something out. What was it, Chris? He needs to go back to the lab, and he had the green
Go back to
faces. The
Yeah.
Mr. Yuck. Mr. Yuck. You know anything about Mr. Yuck?
Nah, I don't know nothing about Mr. Yuck.
Okay, so Mr. Yuck was a sticker that they would put on stuff for kids that made you
Okay.
know that it looked like that green face emoji. except I think Mr. Yuck was a little more like, cartooned up. But yeah, he put the Mr. Yuck faces in there. Like that performance made his performance made him sick. So just Lamar being Lamar, gracious guy, man. Yeah, I expect better. He had a lot of carries yesterday. It's something that I predicted on our preview show because I could just see that being a game where we pulled out all the stops. And of course, Cleveland, with the good edge players, tough to move Clowney. I could see Lamar moving around, and man, his mobility on that touchdown, Chris, and throughout the night was just a key to the game. Like he was off as a passer. One of the worst, like as far as reading the defense, one of the worst games I've ever seen from him. But his mobility was vintage, like 2019 Lamar, man.
Yeah, like I said, he hasn't played football in 17 days, so those legs were looking mighty fresh yesterday, and he needed them because those guys were trying to hunt him down. When I say those guys, I mean Clowney and Myles Garrett, because they were just constantly in the backfield, and Lamar was, for the most part, making them miss and just frustrating the hell out of them. Well, not them, because Myles Garrett, he was just like, "Look, I'm
He was
watching
like, yeah.
greatness." Like and it's refreshing to see somebody be so humble and be so present in the moment where he's like, "Look, man, that's a great throw. It's a great play. I give you props." But then you see on the other side, Clowney smashing his helmet on the ground because he's like, "I can't get this dude." And at the end of the game, you see Clowney where he gets shaken out of his cleats, and he's just smiling. Like he can't even help it because he's like, "What the hell am I supposed to do? I got this guy 2 inches away from me, and he does a Houdini act, and I can't get him." And all he could do was just smile and shake his head because he couldn't believe it.
So Chris, we're playing a football game, and Chris, you're Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. Sarah Ellison asked this question today, and I love the responses from the different people. Are you more of a Myles Garrett guy reactor, or are you more of a Jadeveon Clowney reactor? Like, what's your game that position? Because I gotta admit, I'm pretty Clowney like during the game. But after the game, I'm all Myles Garrett and smiles and everything. But yeah, I'm not a good loser, man. Like I don't know. Well, how about yourself?
It depends, man. If we're winning and the team is doing well, I could be the Myles Garrett. Uh, if we're losing and my team is not playing well and the effort's not there, then I'll be Jadeveon Clowney throwing my helmet on the ground.
Yeah. See, me too. Now, I might not throw my helmet on the ground, but I'm not going to be shaking hands with them and telling them good play. That's just me. I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of a little immature with that. After the game, I'll calm down and congratulate them. But yeah, thought that was funny. But man, Lamar's legs, though. I mean, that throw for the touchdown, the only touchdown the Ravens scored, it went about 35 yards off his back foot while his arm got hit, and he was still able to deliver it in a spot where only Andrews could get it. It looked like basically if his arm wouldn't have been tipped, it would have been a bullet right to Andrews, but his arm was tipped. There was nobody out in front, of course. And the other thing I wanted to say is, yeah, they let Clowney and Garrett hunt, but we saw the same thing from Cleveland, I believe, that we've seen from other teams, which is that's about all they want to send. They want to send those, their edge rushers, and they want to send maybe one other guy in the middle, and then a fourth guy is going to spy. So if they're not blitzing, Lamar can have a very clean pocket. That's the other thing that was so surprising about last night is all four of his interceptions came when it was a clean pocket. It's kind of funny. The Browns came in with, I want to say, 34 sacks. I think Garrett had 13. The Ravens were up there in sacks allowed, but Lamar escaped this game with only 2 sacks. And, I think that was a pretty important part of the game, just to make something out of nothing when nothing was there.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that's something that all Ravens fans were scared of because that Browns front, it has some serious power to it. When you see guys like Tack McKinley, they got the other kid, Jordan Elliott, who's a young guy, but he's coming up. And it's a scary defensive line. It's nothing to scoff at when you see a line like that. And the way that Lamar was able to just maneuver it and just pull a rabbit out of his hat, it seemed like every time where he was just squeaking out of somebody's grasp or just getting around that edge. It was fun to see him be able to do that to these high level athletes that are not used to that happening to them.
Yeah, and the Maliks that they have up front are pretty good too. Like they have a good front. It's a puzzling Cleveland defense. Like I saw their numbers. They're middle of the pack versus the run. I'm like, how is that possible with Clowney and Garrett and these big guys? And then they have some serious talent on that team. Their corners did really well. Another guy I want to talk about, Chris, is Devontae Freeman. And this is a guy that I remember talking to you about on this show about how just in the different stages. At first, it looked like he was not going to be a good option for us. Then we're like, hey, Freeman's looking the most comfortable. Now it's gotten to the point where, in my opinion, it's no contest. Devontae Freeman is your number one back. The way he's able to make a jump cut and just get skinny through the hole, power ahead. He's not the most powerful guy, but he's got good balance and momentum to keep himself go forward. And just a really smart, crafty player. Like I said to my son last night, I would have loved to been a Falcons fan or have Devontae Freeman in his prime, say, to watch him when he was at peak, physical condition, because he's a really smart, crafty, a baller. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate the way he attacks the game and plays ball. But yeah, Freeman looked really good last night. I thought, despite I think it was only 3.5 yards per carry, he was keeping the chains moving and avoiding some negative plays.
Yeah, if you just look at the box score, it's like, all right, whatever. He got his little yardage, whatever. It's no big deal. But when you look at the context of the game, his yards that he got were so important, and they were able to keep the Ravens on schedule as far as down and distance are concerned. And that's so big because when it seemed like whenever Latavius Murray gets the ball, it's like a 2-yard game, maybe. He'll just run into the pile, and that's that. With Freeman, it's like he's gonna squeak out and just squirt through any kind of little hole that he could see. And he just has that knack and that vision and the flexibility to contort his body in order to get those tough little yardage that a guy like Latavius Murray can't get. And it was funny listening to Chris Collinsworth yesterday. There was an outside run that Freeman had, and Chris Collinsworth is like, yeah, now that they have Devontae Freeman, he's a speed back, and he allows them to do this. I'm like, a speed back? Devontae Freeman's never been a speed back. He's always been a slower guy. And for him to say that, it's like, how much football is this dude really watching? For him to call Devontae Freeman a speed back. But it's not to take away from him, but even if you watch him at Florida State, he was never a speed back. So I don't know what Chris Collinsworth is looking at. But
see, that's why you're a man after my own heart. We both look at things through scouting eyes, man. And yeah, it was kind of like, as soon as you started talking, I knew exactly what you were going to say, because I'm like, come on, man. As a matter of fact, we've been calling for speed backs. I want to see Tyson. I was glad to see him actually get the ball when he was in the game. So to bring some mystery to where, okay, Tyson's out there. It looks like we're not giving him the ball. It looks like we're passing. I was glad to see him. And of course, I've been calling for Nate McCrary on the program for over a month. I'm trying to just realize I have no control over it, and it is what it is. But I would love to see some young legs. Duvernay's another one. Like, I hear people say, oh, well, he don't have the mesh point down and all this. I'm like, just pitch him the ball in zone block left. Like, I know we don't have the most mobile linemen and all that, but just pitch Duvernay the ball and let him stretch it out a little bit, find a crease, and let him hit it like he always hits it. Like,
no,
man,
I agree. I agree, man. Just get some speed out there, like just the threat of speed. And when a guy like Devontae Freeman, you're not going to get that east to west at all. You're not going to get the defense swing, but just the threat of Duvernay going east and west with his speed, that puts another element into the defense's mind. It's like, okay, they can attack us at this point. It's the same thing as vertically. When you throw a deep shot to Marquise Brown, that puts another element into their head. Okay, so they have that deep threat there. They can attack us there. With Duvernay, they can attack that. And then something that I saw, it was one play, but the swing pass Lamar missed Tyson Williams. He missed him on it. But the fact that he made that throw to him, is something I would love to see more because we saw so much of that week 1, and it was so damn effective with Tyson Williams, just getting those little dump offs and turning them into big plays. If we could tap into that, that'll be huge because they're not you watch the tape, they're not covering those swing passes. And Lamar has to be cognizant of that. But also they have to have Tyson out there who's a guy that can maximize those touches and take those passes and make positive gains with more than 4 or 5 yards a game.
Yeah, and usually it's Hollywood because he's getting that respect. Corners are playing way off of him, and if we're going to throw a bubble screen or any type of screen pass, it's going to be a bubble screen to Hollywood. But I'm with you, man. And I mean, last week we had 8 targets for the running backs. They called all 8 Tyler Huntley. The game plan was different. That worked for us. But yeah, I mean, I've noticed the same thing. They're not even respecting the flats. It's not even about covering it. It's about the lack of respect. You're not seeing any kind of false steps out of anybody. It's just like we're going to wait for, all eyes on Lamar. If he's frozen in the pocket, we don't really respect what's going on outside. I would love to see that because you're right. We saw it in the preseason and even week 1 where they just swing the ball out to Tyson. He's got a better chance of making the first guy miss and get extra yards over expected than anybody else that we have on the team. Really, I mean, that's pretty much his skill set and what he could bring to the table. I would love to see it, Chris.
Yeah, and another thing I would like to see too is them kind of just give more attempts to Rashad Bateman. Uh, he's your first round guy. He's looked like a stud so far. Give him some more schemed up throws, some schemed up passes because it's you have to have the threat there for the defenses. Like it can't just be the Hollywood and Andrew show. It can't just be like, all right, we got to cover these guys. It's like, no, you guys got to cover everybody. You got to cover Bateman. You got to cover Andrews. You got to cover Brown because he's a guy who could take over a game. I mean, we saw it in Minnesota. It hasn't happened yet in the NFL, but he's a guy who could take over. And I think they need to start featuring him a little bit more than they are right now because, like I said, he's a guy with the ball in his hands. He could do a little bit more than Marquise Brown as far as after the catch. He's a guy who could go up top. There's just so much he can do, and I feel like they aren't utilizing it right now.
Well, first off, I agree 100%. And, I was looking I figured Bateman would be in the slot some last night when we were in 11 personnel. And I was looking at Troy Hill, and I'm like, Bateman versus Troy Hill. Okay. You got Greedy you got Denzel Ward and Hollywood on one side. Then you got Newsome, maybe with Watkins on the outside. I'm like, Bateman. Yeah, Bateman's going to be our guy. And his snaps were cut. I don't have the exact numbers written down here, but I saw it. He played a lot fewer snaps. So number 1, I agree with you. But number 2, I'm going to say my stress level on that is a little bit lower because I firmly believe that it's going to happen. He is just too good of a player, and good things happen when you target Rashad Bateman. The steady hands and then being able to get upfield quickly. Like he's one of the few guys on this team, Chris, if it's 3rd and 9, you can throw a 6-yard slant to Rashad Bateman and expect him to catch it and already be turned upfield and be able to power ahead for those extra 3 yards. Like you really don't get that from the other receivers. Bateman's just, it's not that they can't do it. It's just that Bateman is special at that quality. Like being able to catch it and already have a feel for where guys are and to get that, even if it's only an extra 3 or 4 yards you need. Bateman's one of those guys you could actually throw short of the sticks with confidence, man. And I think that we could use that big time to our advantage. And maybe I'm ignorant to it, but I just can't see us not using Bateman. Like, I think if Harbaugh had to redo last night, he'd be like, Greg, get Bateman involved more. What the hell are we doing over here? Like, I don't know. That's just kind of the feel. What's your confidence level that it'll happen? Are you with me or are you a little more skeptical?
It's hard to say. I don't know. I can't call it because it looked like he was taking over that role once Sammy went out. It's like, wow, he's taking his opportunities and he's maximizing them the way J.K. maximized his limited opportunities his rookie year. And it's kind of like now they're just reducing him now that Sammy's back. And it's like I would rather see Bateman get those opportunities than Watkins. Not phase out Watkins completely, because that's obviously not going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. But what I would like to see is, hey, he did the most with his touches, and hey, let's reward him. Let's keep putting the rookie out there and build up his confidence and build up that rapport with Lamar that we've seen early on. And I would like to see more of that and have him featured a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a good news, bad news type of thing. I mean, the good news is we have, the three receivers that you mentioned, plus Duvernay, plus Andrews. I mean, so we have guys to throw the ball to. The bad news is, no offense to Pat Ricard or Nick Boyle or Eric Tomlinson, but we're needing to put those guys on the field out of necessity to help protect our tackles. So we can't have Sammy. We can't play Sammy as much as we want to, or even Duvernay as much as we want to, because their spots are being taken up by guys that have to help our tackles block. So it's a tough situation as far as like how to balance you're putting three receivers and Andrews on the field, and then how to balance putting two receivers and a fullback on the field to help it out. Like it's just not as it's kind of a good problem to have people that are capable of doing everything, but I feel like that we're not being able to maximize them because of the play at both tackle spots.
Yeah, and then that goes along with a fundamental philosophical thing is when you don't have the offensive line, you cannot do what you want to do on offense. No matter who your personnel is, as far as running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. If that offensive line isn't the foundation of your team and isn't solidified, you can't do what you want to do. And we've seen them have to adjust, and even in game, it's like, look, we can't do this, so now we have to try to throw the ball a little bit more, or try these quick passes a little bit more, or have Lamar kind of be the lead running back of the group. So it's like I said, it's rough when you don't have your offensive line as that foundation piece like we had in 2019, where we could lean on them and they'll give Lamar time to do what he needs to do, and they'll create holes in the run game. But we'll get into that when draft season comes along.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm looking for some lighter, more mobile linemen. Like it's a long discussion. We could have another show on it, but I mean, there's no sense drafting all 300-pound linemen, and they're not blowing people off the ball. And now we can't screen pass. We can't run zone effectively because they're too big. But they're not blowing people off the ball either. So what are we doing here? I would like a philosophical switch in what type of lineman we draft, a later, more athletic group. I want to get some athletes on this line, no more clunky footed people. I want to see some true athletes, but that's a philosophical thing, man. We could talk about in the off season, but just to wrap up, as we start to wrap up here, Chris, I wanted to point out, because I see, again, a lot of fans are, man, this team we can't play like this and go far. And they're right. We can't play like we did last night and win a playoff game or expect to win a game, period. I mean, this was the first quarterback first team since 2013 to have a win despite a quarterback throwing 4 interceptions. Teams were 0-41 coming into last night. We throw 4 interceptions, we win. We can't play like this. But I just want to point out, next week at Pittsburgh, the Ravens already are, 3-point favorites at Pittsburgh. Then you get this Browns team again, where it just looks like I can't see much changing between this game and the game in 2 weeks against the Browns, because the Browns don't have any playmakers coming back to this team. They're going to play better on offense, but Baker is still really beat up.
And they lost their right tackle.
They lost their right tackle. Did you get any? Is he going to be gone for a while? Did that come out today? He's done. Yeah.
He's done. And
Yeah.
then they said Stefanski came out and said that Hunt wasn't in the game last night because his calf got strained again. So that's an injury that he's been battling for weeks, and it popped up again yesterday. So he might not be around for the next game.
Yeah, and man, you know what Cavs, Chris. I know you do, but Ravens fans, we saw it last year with Calais Campbell. When that calves can take a longer time to heal than almost any other muscle, man, for whatever reason. And being a running back, I mean, that's got to be tough. It's not like he's an immobile quarterback who can just stand there and slice defenses. Kareem Hunt needs his legs to be effective. But I guess what the overall point I was getting at is, as much as doom and gloom as there is, I mean, the Ravens could very easily be favored these next 2 weeks. And then when I look at it from a competitor standpoint, Chris, we have a chance to really stomp on the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, put them under 500 with a tie that they have already. And then we have a chance, one game at a time. But then a week after that, we have a chance to completely crush the Browns, sweep the Browns, put them at 6-7, and really put a hurting on their season too. So like the blood in the water, you know what I mean? The shark in me is smelling the blood in the water. And it's like, I can't really dissect some long-term issues and draft season and what we need and what we can fix and what we can fix. But I'm looking at these next 2 games saying, Chris, if we buckle up and play like we're capable of these next 2 weeks, this whole season, we can really, really, really solidify our spot in this division.
Yeah, and another thing that broke today is T.J. Watt was put on the COVID reserve list. So that's huge because he's maybe a top 5 defender in the NFL. So for them to
Yeah.
not have him that for this Sunday, that would be huge. That would be huge because we know the kind of havoc he can cause on an offense.
And just to clarify, it's not for sure that he's out. Like I saw Didi Kinkabwala say, we've seen players come back in 2 days or whatever. So maybe he's vaccinated and so on and so forth, and he'll be ready. But yeah, I mean, geez whiz, Chris, if we don't have to help out with TJ Watt, every snap he's on the field, he's going to get double teamed or chipped. It would just open up that extra position that we were talking about for Duvernay, or to put Sammy and Bateman on the field. But, watching Pittsburgh, man, like, I can't get over. I mean, we have a whole preview show but I can't get over how poor they've been against the run, how limited the offense looks. Like, it's there for the taking. As many problems as we have, and as much faults as we see, and we're not as good as we want to be. Like, we're going to have a good chance to win this week and the week after. And if that happens, Chris, all of a sudden we're 10-3, and we're still, of course, since we're the first seed now, we'd be the first seed at that point. So really, it's right there for the taking for us, Chris, is what I'm getting at. Sorry for being long-winded there, but
No,
everything's there, man. Everything's there for the taking,
Yeah.
Chris.
No. You're right on. And these division games are important because the Bengals are looking pretty right now because they're undefeated in the division, and the Ravens just had their second divisional game and got their first win. So it's like they have to keep up with the Bengals there because the Bengals are nipping at their heels, and it doesn't look like they're slowing down. They're hitting their stride and kind of becoming that dynamic offense that a lot of people thought they could be coming into this season. And to go to Baltimore and whoop up on the Ravens and then whoop up on the Steelers, that's a big statement for a team that's been trying to get to this level of the big dogs of the AFC North. So they have to take care of business with these next 2 weeks and make sure that they're in a good place because it just gets more difficult after that. They have the Rams, they have the Bengals again, then they have Green Bay. So it's not going to get any easier after this stretch.
That's right. It looked like a daunting stretch, though, and it is a daunting stretch. But now that we're in it, I feel like, all right, when I'm looking at this game Sunday at Pittsburgh, we can win this game. Not only can we win this game, I feel like we should win this game, dare I say. And then, what I saw with the Browns last night, as poorly as we played, I mean, it was just hard for them to get anything going against the defense. And, with the way Baker looked and everything else, it's some long-term issues in Cleveland, at least for this year, some season-long issues in Cleveland too. So keep your head up, Ravens fans. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Let's just ride this thing out, take it a game for a time. And man, this is what we love about sports, Chris, is you can't predict this stuff, man. It's better than a movie. Like I can predict usually what happens at the end of the movie. Like they're going to fall in love. This guy might die or he might not. But when it comes to sports, man, who, especially the NFL, who the heck knows, man?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a giant soap opera, and we're there every week watching it.
Love it. So, Chris, thank you so much for your time. Make sure y'all catch Chris, Deep Cover Pod, Michael and Carrie, awesome people, man. Good show. Michael, though, man, he's got a low key sense of humor. I noticed he tries to break out the jokes, and he's a pretty funny guy, man. Mike.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mike and Kerry, man, they both low key. They got the jokes, and they always have me cracking up. So shout out to my brothers, man. You'll be hearing from us soon, and yeah, shout out for the Deep Cover podcast.
Oh yeah, all your links will be below, man. You know that. Always hook you up, but thanks, man. I know it's hard to get together for these game reviews, and man, anytime I can have you on, I feel really thankful, man. You always pick me up, and we look at the game, through the scout's eyes, man. It's just a lot of other people like I lean on for the coaching perspective and this and that, and I like to pick their brains, but man, we see the same things. We noticed that first step, and we noticed that that a little hesitation and all that other stuff that comes from just watching the game a lot and watching it like that. So I love you, man. I hope everything's going well with you.
Thank you, man. Like I said to begin with, man, it's always a pleasure to jump on with you, man. And thank you for having me on as always.
Absolutely. So with that, say goodbye to our football family. Thank everybody for watching. Chris, say goodbye to people now.
Peace, people. Have a good one.